here's something that's interesting for you. The word female in Islam does not always apply to biological females. Sometimes the word female is used to identify males. And the proof of this is in the Qur'an. In Surah An-Nisa, verse 117. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And they which they call other than him, meaning the Prince of the Believers, meaning those whom they call the Prince of the Believers, other than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, they're only calling them while they are females. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الإمام والمهدينا وسلم تسليما السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear sister Zahra.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Abu Sadiq, I have a question from you. There was a controversy in Paris Olympic that basically there was a boxer that they didn't know how to identify if they can identify her as a female or male. So I wanted to know that what is female and male in the view and opinion of Ahlul Bayt and Qur'an.
Thank you for that question. That's a really important one, Zahra. And basically, I think what you're referring to is what took place recently in the Olympics, in which there was an Algerian boxer by the name of Iman, and her and another boxer, I believe, as well. There was a controversy surrounding them because they have the appearance and the outwardly strength of a biological male, but at the same time, they are born female, or at least that's what's said on the passport. And so they had a lot of success in the boxing division of the Olympics, and there were some people that were saying that that's not fair, that these two compete against regular females because obviously they're not like regular females. There's something else that is going on. And it turned out that actually when they took some tests, they tested these females, they found out that they have Y chromosomes in them, right? And you're a little bit of a biologist yourself, right? So you know something about that. So why don't you tell our viewers what is the difference between a male and a female on a DNA level?
Basically, when the egg is conceived, and from a female, it's just only X chromosome. And from a male, either comes X or a Y. So if it's Y, after few weeks, then the egg starts to demonstrate male features, and then they can say that this is a boy, and if it's X from male, then they can say that it's a girl.
So basically, XX is what?
It's a female.
And XY?
Male.
But sometimes what happens is that you have individuals that are born, and when the doctor looks at them and the parents look at them naked as they're born, in the apparent, their sexual organs that they come with are female, for example. But they have hidden testes or hidden male private parts that are not visible, that are in the place, for example, of the ovaries or something like this, which produces testosterone. And so in the apparent, they're a perfectly normal biological female. But actually underneath the skin layers, something else is going on. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And there's also some individuals that are described as intersex, all right? And these individuals are born with parts of both male and female organs, or they're born with one and part of the other, something like this, or both of them in some way, shape, or form. And this is not a new thing. This is something that's gone on since the very beginning of mankind. It's an issue that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam had to deal with. And so the controversy that is taking place right now, the discourse, the discussion that's taking place amongst the people in the world, they're all discussing what was the right course of action. Here is this Algerian boxer. She was born as a normal biological female. We did tests on her. Oh my goodness, we found high levels of testosterone. She has a Y chromosome in her. This means that something is taking place. She must have hidden testes somewhere. She must also be now, what should we consider? Is she a male or is she a female? She has this edge, this advantage over normal females that don't have this Y in them. That don't have this testosterone in them. So should she be allowed to compete against them or not? This is the controversy, and this is the question that's going on. And you have people like, for example, Richard Dawkins, the famous British atheist writer, the guy who wrote The God Delusion. He went on an interview and he said that basically, it is his opinion that she should not be allowed to compete against other females, and because biologically she is a male. So he thinks that there is a way that we should identify who is male and who is female by the genetics, basically, by the DNA, by testing them rather than by the apparent. When we look into the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we find that they too dealt with this issue throughout history. And the reason why is because there were people that lived, that were Muslims, that lived in Islamic society, that were homosexual or feminine in nature. And issues would be brought up to the Imam of the time, usually in regards to inheritance, right? So, they have a bunch of siblings, their mother would die, their father would pass away, it would become time to inherit their property, and you would have a situation going on, which you would have a male brother, sibling in the family who was acting feminine, would dress like a female, perhaps would lay with other males, and they would be wanting, the siblings would be wanting for this brother of theirs to be treated in regards to the inheritance as a female rather than a male, right? Because in Islamic law or jurisprudence, the male who would inherit from his mother or father would inherit double what the female would inherit. And the reason for this is because basically in those days, in that day and age, the females would never really work. It would mainly be the males that would work. It's not never, but it was a rarity that the female would be the one that's generating the income, right? And so if you had a couple that had a daughter and had a son, and let's assume that the daughter and the son both were married, right? Married or unmarried, they still one day would be expected to be married, but let's, for the sake of this example, say that they were both married. So the husband would inherit double, the son, would inherit double what the daughter would inherit. And the reason for that is because there's an assumption that's made that this daughter has a husband who will be providing an income, while this son has a wife who will not be providing an income. So there is income or inheritance that's safeguarded that goes to the son, that's double because it covers him and his wife, whereby the inheritance of the daughter will only cover her because it's not necessary to cover her husband who is working. If they both got inheritance that was equal to one another, then the daughter would end up richer than the son in every scenario, because the husband of the daughter will be providing additional income, while the wife of the son will not be providing an income. So the religion of Islam, in order to ensure a healthy balance, equality between the levels of the life levels, or the quality of life that the son and the daughter would receive, it grants the son who has a partner that does not generate wealth double what it would provide for the female. Okay, so now back to the issue of the feminine or the homosexual or individual who is a male in this example, who has been dressing like a female but now wants to be treated in regards to the inheritance as a male rather than a female, while the siblings want that their brother be treated as a female rather than a male so that they can get more of the inheritance. This issue was posed to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam said that they are to look at where he urinates from. If he urinates from a male organ, right, then he is to be considered a male. And if he urinates from a female, in a female way, or from a female organ, then he is to be considered to be a female. So we see in this example, the genetics plays no role in it. And the way that he dresses plays no role in it, and how he identifies plays no role in it, but it is purely based on the organ that the individual is born with, not that he has sexual relations with, but rather the organ by which the individual urinates from. So a biological female, according to the jurisprudence of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, would be a female that urinates as females do, and a biological male, according to the Ahlul Bayt, would be a male that urinates like other biological males do from a penis. Okay?
Yes.
But here's something that's interesting for you. The word female in Islam does not always apply to biological females. Sometimes the word female is used to identify males. And the proof of this is in the Qur'an. In Surah An-Nisa, verse 117. And basically what took place is that one day there was a companion who went in on Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and he said, "Peace be upon you, O Prince of the Believers." And Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam responded and said, "Meh." That's a name, meaning the Prince of the Believers, meaning he was displeased when he was called Prince of the Believers. He says, this name, Prince of the Believers, don't call me that. The name Prince of the Believers is not a name that you can call anybody except for Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. It is a name which is exclusive for him. And anybody who is called by that name, Prince of the Believers, and is pleased by that, and that is happy, accepts that title, he ends up, there's nobody that is pleased with that except that they are an individual who is homosexual, who has engaged in homosexual intercourse with another male. And the hadith carries on and says, and even if they had not engaged or don't have that in them now, they won't leave this world except that it will be in them. It would be something that they would end up having befall them, that they would fall into one of these relationships, or wanting to engage in that, or having this sexual desire to play the role of a female and be engaged in a specific homosexual act with other males as a female. And the Imam ﷺ proceeded to recite the verse from the Qur'an, which is Surah An-Nisa, verse 117. And he said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and they which they call other than him, meaning the Prince of the Believers, meaning those whom they call the Prince of the Believers, other than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, they're only calling them while they are females. Verily, they are only calling them while they are disobedient shaitans. And that's the end of the verse. And so, the word female in Surah An-Nisa, verse 117, is a word that is used to identify individuals who are biological males, but have claimed for themselves a particular title that belongs only to Imam Ali alayhi salam, one of the Imams from the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, and the successor to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa. They are usurpers, and they are considered Islamically to be females, and they're also considered to be shaitans. And so we have some of those characters that exist today as there did back in the day. We have several of the caliphs of Islam, for example, throughout history, whether the Abbasids or the Umayyads or a group of the first ones that came right after the passing of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they all accepted that title, the Prince of the Believers, and they wore it as a badge, on their shoulders. And the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam are basically telling us that all these individuals that did this, these are people actually that were sexually inclined, that had the sexual inclinations of females, normal biological females, meaning they were attracted to males and they felt as females and they engaged in these types of acts. And we have the same thing that's going on today in the Arab world. We have people that are called Prince of the Believers and that accept this title proudly. And they, for example, like the King of Morocco, and we also have like the King of Jordan and other than them that are sitting on the throne of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, considering themselves to be leaders of the Muslims and accept this particular title, the Prince of the Believers, which is reserved only for the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. So there you go. That's a little bit of information for us today in this topic in general about sex, gender, and the religion of Islam, the sixth covenant, and how it is dealt with in the seventh covenant is inshallah a very important topic, which we're going to discuss and deal with in an entire episode in the future.
Thank you so much, Al-Sadiq.
Thank you so much, Zahra. God bless you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum.